I'm a bit outside the norm in how I would do outreach. So I cap mine around like 4,
Oh,
and
nice.
we've run these tests before where we'll run 4 emails and we'll book over a 10% meeting rate.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
there's some great targeting that's involved in that, but the thing that like actually makes it work better than anything else is you've got a clear point of view on why you're reaching out, and you reiterate on that throughout the messaging. So that 4 email sequence I'm talking about, the first email, super short, super simple. It's just like, hey, based on observation, made me think you might have this problem. We've seen that with, client X before. We solved it with our Y, our email assistant. Curious, does that sound interesting? That's email 1. Email
Okay.
2, I'm a huge fan of doing like a thoughtful bump, right? Where it's just like, hey, given initial observation, I thought this would be interesting. Did you have any thoughts on my last note? Or did you have any last thoughts on my last note, given the observation and what I thought about it, right? That's one way you can go about it. The other thing that we've done before, and I got this trick from an advisor of ours, Christina Finseth, is instead of trying to bump your original message with 0 value, give them something. And so that we've sent a few different items across, but the idea is really simple. You're sending a neutral party piece of information. So we put together this email where it's basically like, hey, do you read Outreach's blog? And so like what you're doing there is you're signaling up front. You're saying, hey, I'm going to send you something from a neutral third party. It's not mine.
Right.
Which, by the way, it generated a couple of responses. People like, is that a competitive technology to you? Kind of wild that you would send me this. And to which we get to respond like, no, of course not. Like, we work directly with them. Like, it's a direct integration. So it just sort of tees it up, right? But yeah, you send them a really interesting article with that. It's like, hey, do you read Outreach's blog? They interviewed the VP of Sales Dev at Segment. She talks about how she scaled the company to a $3.5 billion acquisition by Twilio, but I think it's actually 3.2 billion by or without having, I'm trying to remember the email exactly, without having any canned templates. Thought you'd find it interesting, given the original reason I reached out, right? So like whatever that original reason is, given you're hiring a bunch of sales reps right now, right? And then you link to it below, flat link, very obvious. And that's within the same thread as the email before. And what that does is they see that and they're like, oh, that's actually pretty helpful. What did this person email me about in the first place? And then they go look at the original email and then they're like, oh, that's a well-written email. They actually wrote it for me.
Right.
And you get a response. Now, the third email is like a context sort of refresh where you basically reword the original email, but with a little bit more focus on yourself so that you didn't necessarily leave any stone unturned, right? So instead of saying like, I saw the following thing, you might just rephrase that and say, hey, given the growth that you're trying to go after with your new hiring plan, I thought what we're building at Lavender would be top of mind. Teams like X and Y are using us for the following reason, right? So you basically just regurgitate the first email, but into a new format. And then the last email was a breakup email. And that actually got one of the highest response rates across the entire sequence. And what was funny reaching out to sales leaders was like probably 15-30% of those replies were them going, like, was curious when this cadence would end. I've been following along, taking notes. and you're like, yep, it's over. Glad you enjoyed the writing. But like the breakup is not the cheesy breakup that you're probably familiar with. It's very simple, which is, hey, I reached out for a very pointed reason, right? I reached out because of, your aggressive hiring plan. I'm going to chalk it up to my timing being off. Clearly this isn't a priority right now. If I've got it all wrong, let me know. So you invite them to correct you. And then you say, I'm going to stop my outreach. And then you have to actually hold and not respond to any of the other messages. And it was wild. You get like a crazy reply rate on that.